Welcome to Football Conspiracies.
I'm Jared Cole.
And I'm Jared Rabinovich.
This week's episode, 2025 Playoffs, Part 3.
We're coming back at you today with yet another playoff conspiracy theory episode.
Well, I mean, these 2025 playoffs have just been riddled with them.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of the main thing I want to speak about. Like, I'd say the primary lesson I've learned throughout the course of this playoff season is that we are very prescient with when we have decided to start this podcast. Like, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like, it's not even that we're, like, actively looking for the conspiracy theories. I feel like they're more looking for us, you know?
I know, it feels like a bit of witchcraft. Like, the beginning of this podcast ushered in the flood of conspiracy theories that we've seen over the past year or so. So obviously it's no secret that the NFL is far more riddled with conspiracy theories today than it was, even 1 year ago, 2 years ago, definitely 5 years ago. But to me at least, the past year or two have been a fever pitch of hysteria. And with the Super Bowl this year being a matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles, the amount of conspiracies has only skyrocketed in the past couple weeks.
Well, I mean, red-green Super Bowl, baby.
I guess so. The Christmas Bowl. It feels like only 6 or 7 months ago when we started this podcast, the topic we were speaking about was relatively obscure, especially outside the NFL community. It definitely started getting some traction in the past months, and there's a reason we came up with the idea in the first place, but it has only grown exponentially since. And I think this observation is best exemplified by an article I saw while perusing the news earlier this week. I did not clip the article, so I cannot speak about it specifically at the moment, but it really is the tenor of the article that matters and not the content. This article was found on a popular news aggregator site. I will not mention the name of it, as I have no desire to give this particular site any sort of advertising, especially free advertising. That being said, this article was about how this is going to be the Super Bowl of conspiracies. For those who listen to our podcast, I'm sure this is hardly a surprise. We've been speaking about this exact thing for months now. But this wasn't said by people who run a podcast about football conspiracies, nor was it released to an audience primarily made up of football fans. This was a mainstream news source to a mainstream news audience. The fact that the topic of conspiracies in the NFL has reached such heights that this particular news aggregator thought their non-sports related audience would be interested is very notable. The spread of conspiracy into the league is no longer something that is just infecting those of us who are already rolling around in the muck, like J. Cole and I here. This is a main storyline coming out of this year's Super Bowl, and something that is spoken about well outside of this niche that we cover, I guess this once niche that we cover. For the state of society, I find this frankly scary. I hate that conspiracy coverage of the Super Bowl is becoming increasingly popular. I think it speaks to the direction society is going as a whole, and personally, I have no interest in even more conspiracy-addled society. For the state of our podcast, however, this is wonderful news. And I do hope people interested in this topic find our show first, as opposed to many of the podcasts out there who are busy pushing out NFL conspiracies and doing their best to pill their audiences, as opposed to maybe give them the facts as they truly are, like I like to think we do. I think we offer a very unique product, and I would be incredibly happy to know that our podcast saved even one person from falling down this rabbit hole. And for those of you who are still skeptical about the increased role of conspiracy in the NFL, you don't need to look any further than what advertisers themselves are doing. The best example of this is certainly the NFL is Scripted commercials starring Keegan-Michael Key, where the actor plays the scriptwriter of the league. J. Cole,
yeah,
of course you remember
Yeah, we've talked about them before. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty funny. I think they're like pretty charming and endearing, and they play on a large part of the popular culture surrounding the NFL, which is a lot of people saying it's scripted. Obviously.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty charming, but overall harmless on the whole. But I actually have found another example of this I thought worth mentioning. Remember how last week I said we'd be speaking about Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
Well, here it is. Okay. Uber Eats recently released this ad about a couple weeks ago. It is in the style of a classic conspiracy theory TikTok and stars Matthew McConaughey. We will play it for you right now.
All right, sports fans, it's Super Bowl time. Super Bowl LIX, to be exact. Now, what's with all the Roman numerals? We're not in Rome. I'm not wearing a toga, are you? But I tell you what's with the Roman numerals. LIX. Sound it out. Licks. Yeah, licks. They are literally telling us to lick our lips to buy their savory snacks. And catch this, the Super Bowl's being played in a stadium named after America's favorite salad, Caesar's. Just because we watch the game don't mean we ain't being played, baby.
So now that you know what I mean by modeled after a TikTok conspiracy video, what do you think?
That's an amazing ad. I mean, they've really taken what a conspiracy TikTok is and made it an Uber Eats ad.
And I've seen, I don't even know how many videos in this exact, like, format.
Where it's like,
did you know the Chiefs and Taylor Swift? It's crazy. Like,
yeah.
It's a very well done ad. I think it's some great advertising, honestly. It personally doesn't make me want to, like, order Uber Eats any more than I did before, but damn, we are talking about it.
Yes, we definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, but the reason I bring this up isn't because I want to speak about the brilliance of the Uber Eats marketing team. Far from it. I bring this up because I think it speaks to the prevalence of conspiracy in the NFL right now. Uber Eats is playing on the fact that so many people are believing in the Super Bowl conspiracies. They knew it was such a hot topic that they were willing to shill out presumably a lot of money to have a marketing campaign starring Matthew McConaughey based on the subject. This ad, in combination with the media discourse I've seen over the past weeks, shows me that conspiracy in the NFL is officially mainstream, and that, in and of itself, is worth highlighting.
I mean, I think it's also worth highlighting that this was an ad for an ad.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know if you noticed, but at the end of you notice as in you watched the video. Our fans obviously didn't get a chance to see it. But the video ended with a screen cap saying Uber Eats 020925.
So they're teasing their Super Bowl commercial?
They're teasing their Super Bowl commercial with this TikTok-esque video. They're not the only... I've actually seen a lot of other companies doing this.
That's actually so upsetting to me. A world where you could advertise advertising is so sad to me. And, like, putting a release date on a commercial...
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's brutal. Like, coming out in theaters, no one cares.
Late stage capitalism, baby.
Yep. This is the beginning of the end. So, before we dive deeper into these playoff conspiracy theories, there's a couple arguments in relation to these theories that I've seen repeated over and over again in the past couple weeks that I want to address. And I really want to get to this first before we dig into the theories, so you guys understand where I'm coming from a little bit. The first argument is the idea that the Chiefs are a middling team and there's no reason to want them to win.
That's one of the worst arguments I've ever heard. Like, oh, I can't believe... Like, think about this in a non-Chiefs context. Like, oh, this team is so bad, they don't deserve to be there. Well, they won the games and made it to the big ones. Therefore, they're obviously not middling enough to miss out.
I understand the confusion, but that's not what people are saying. There are definitely people saying, oh, they're a mid-team, they shouldn't be there. But what I'm saying is people are saying, why would the Chiefs be scripted into the Super Bowl? They're a middling team from a middling market. Who cares about the Kansas City fan base? That is the idea. People are arguing that the Chiefs are a middling team in service of furthering the fact that it couldn't have been scripted, because why would the Chiefs be in the Super Bowl?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
Yes.
Okay, I thought they were talking about, like, the team themselves, and it's like...
No, understandable confusion. Yeah. I'm glad we cleared that up for the listeners. So back to the statement at hand. I know we spoke about this last week, but I just want to say that this is a patently untrue statement, that the Chiefs are a middling team from a middling market. I do agree with those people who claim that the Super Bowl viewership likely would not have had drastic changes if the Chiefs had not been there. However, it is reductive to say that the Chiefs, as repeat Super Bowl champions and the team employing Taylor Swift's boyfriend, would not provide a ratings boost for the big game. Like, that's just, it's backwards logic to me.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I saw there was a report today where the most expensive ticket to the Super Bowl is 50% less at right now than it was at this point last year for last Super Bowl.
That might be true, but people who are willing to spend the money to go to the game, I'm not so sure that's true, but people who are going to turn on the TV. That's what really matters to advertisers.
I think audience level is going to be, I think this is going to be one of the least watched Super Bowls in the past 5 years.
I think you're probably right about that, but that doesn't mean they're not going to rake in massive viewership, and I'm not so sure a Bills-Commanders Super Bowl would have had a huge audience either.
Oh, 100% they would have, because you have the more notable attention of like, oh, it's the underdogs, and you get your friends to watch, and the family watches, because like,
I don't
they
know.
remember when the Bills lost 4 in a row.
I think you're going to see a lot of people tuning in for a potential three-peat and just to see Taylor Swift at the game.
Well, yeah.
We know that's a ratings boost. I don't know. I guess the point of this is that I don't think the Chiefs are the same middling franchise from a flyover state that they were 10 years ago. And it's shocking to me how many people have failed to realize this, all in the service of dispelling conspiracy theories. Right place you're coming from, totally wrong execution. I'm all about dispelling conspiracy theories, if you haven't noticed yet, but I do not think it is helpful to this mission if you are doing so in bad faith or backing up your arguments with faulty evidence. To put it simply, you cannot fight fire with fire the same way you cannot fight conspiracy theories with conspiracy theories.
Yeah, if you're going to fight a conspiracy theory, you got to at least bring, like, some facts.
That is the only cure to conspiracies, truly. The other argument I want to speak about is the idea that a Chiefs versus Eagles Super Bowl would be bad for the league, like we were just mentioning. I know this is similar to my last point, but bear with me here. I keep seeing people contend that there would be so much more interest in the game if it were Washington Commanders versus Buffalo Bills Super Bowl. And like I said, I agree with this in a very narrow sense. It would be far more interesting for NFL fans. However, the Super Bowl is not just for NFL fans. It is one of the most viewed television broadcasts every single year. For this reason alone, it should not be surprising that a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl would be more interesting. After all, it is more interesting for the viewing public, the general viewing public as a whole, which make up the majority of Super Bowl viewers, not NFL fans. Additionally, I think this is a flawed argument because of this conversation right now, what we're having right now. The people making this argument are only able to do so because of the interest spawned from the Chiefs versus Eagles Super Bowl. The amount of talk about conspiracy and all the conversations that have come from it would only have happened with a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. So I believe to say that this is not a high-interest Super Bowl is missing the forest for the trees. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I mean, for the people around the world and in America and wherever who don't watch football but only watch the Super Bowl, they get to watch their annual, like, Chiefs-Eagles game, basically.
Exactly. Good point. But if we're looking at this from the perspective of people who are trying to rig the Super Bowl for maximum profit, then this would be a fantastic Super Bowl. Lots of viewers for this game, but the AFC and NFC were still exciting games with underdog teams or interesting matchups at the very least. So it kind of is the perfect playoff bracket if you were trying to milk this for advertising dollars.
Well, they're doing a good job then.
Yes, I mean, like I said, I don't believe this, but I just hate this idea of fighting an illogical argument with another illogical argument. Now that we've spoken about the state of conspiracies and the league from a macro perspective, it is time to dig deep on a couple more specific theories that I want to discuss this week. The first thing we need to talk about is all the talk about Taylor Swift and her influence on the big game. Obviously, there is a lot of chatter about the Chiefs making it to the Super Bowl because Taylor Swift would be there if they did, and this would drive viewership. We briefly touched on this earlier, and honestly, I think it is far from the most compelling theory involving Swift. Because of this, I do not intend to spend much more time on this. However, what I absolutely am interested in is Tay Voodoo. You know this term?
I've never heard that term.
Yes.
Might be the first Taylor Swift conspiracy related to the NFL that I'm not informed on.
This actually stretches back a little longer than that. For those who aren't familiar with the term, Tay Voodoo is used to refer to the wild coincidences and other phenomena associated with Taylor Swift. It should be noted that this term and concept existed long before her relationship with Travis Kelce, but it has certainly not helped quell the chatter about it. While I have seen many people speaking about the concept in the past couple weeks, I've seen very little compelling content about the subject. There is even an article with Tay Voodoo as one of the main focuses in the Wall Street Journal. Though it honestly didn't have much of anything worth speaking about, One theory, however, that I did deem worthy of our attention is actually not about the Chiefs winning because of Taylor Swift. Rather, it's about how they are going to lose because of her. So do you like that little plot twist, J. Cole?
Yeah, I mean, we should just end the episode right there, like make them come back for more next week, you know?
And welcome to 2025 Playoffs, Part 4. I became familiarized with this theory through an article titled Taylor Swift Fans Reveal Conspiracy Theory About What Her Grammy Snub Means for Travis Kelce at Super Bowl. This article was written by Nola Ojomu for DailyMail.com, the most reliable news source on planet Earth.
Yeah, I also think that Taylor Swift fans might be a little bit biased because the Grammys absolutely nailed it this year.
Okay.
Like, I don't think anyone who got an award didn't deserve it.
Well, we're about to be chatting about that, so it's good you bring it up. The entire theory can be summarized as such. Because Taylor Swift failed to win a Grammy this year, the Chiefs will not win the Super Bowl this year. You understand? Very simple stuff.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
A to B
every
to
time like they won a Super Bowl, did Taylor win a Grammy or something? Like, or
Nope.
is it just like
It's just
she does
a
well,
portent.
he does well.
That's
she
right.
does poor, he does poor.
Yeah, like I wish I could say there was more substance beyond this. Maybe a single stat, some gumshoe reporting, but alas, this is pretty much the extent of the theory. Yeah. The rest of the article is pretty much just a collation of different tweets speaking about this hypothesis. Some choice examples are such.
Since Taylor Swift left the hashtag Grammys without an award, except Travis Kelce to walk out of the hashtag Super Bowl in New Orleans without a three-peat. Ha.
For the record, that except is just direct quoting. I want to bring you guys these tweets raw and whole as they are. How about this next one?
Somehow, Taylor Swift not winning the big awards at the Grammys is foreshadowing a Chiefs loss at the Super Bowl. Mark my words.
And I know this last one is discordant and has nothing to do with the theory, but the writer of this article clearly thought it was relevant to enough to include in the article at least, so I will be including it too.
Since it's Black History Month, Jalen's gotta do it for the win this Super Bowl. Hashtag Fly Eagles Fly.
Like I said, I have no idea how this relates to Taylor Swift or that conspiracy theory, or even how this is a conspiracy at all, but I just had to include it there.
Yeah, I guess if they thought it was important, so should we.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm just doing, authentic reporting here. So what do you think of the theory?
I mean, I don't know.
No, that's a very, very fair reaction.
Like,
there's nothing there.
If there was a little, like, I'm the first to jump on a conspiracy theory if there's like
true.
even the littlest bit of something. But like this just isn't. It's not enough.
Zero meat on these bones. I agree. Like,
I mean, I would say this is like skim milk. Like it's basically water.
oh, for sure, for sure. This is obviously not the most well fleshed out theory we've ever discussed on this podcast, but I simply couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Technically it is a 2025 playoff conspiracy.
This is what our show was made for, to discuss these burning subjects. Yeah, like, this literally has no substance, but I honestly hope these theorists are correct.
Yeah.
That being-
because that would mean Chiefs lose the Super Bowl.
Exactly, it'd be lovely.
Fuck the Chiefs.
All this being said, if the Eagles do emerge victorious, I'm not looking forward to the people who made these arguments claiming they are right all along. They may prove to be right about the outcome, but that does not make their reasoning any more valid. It's equally as substanceless as it was before, even if the Eagles win.
Yeah, it's just as stupid.
It's just so stupid. The last theory we've got to discuss is one I'm quite excited for. J. Cole, do you remember during our Christmas episode when we were discussing that graphic put out by Amazon Prime?
Yeah, who was wearing the game pants?
Exactly. For those who don't remember, the NFL on Prime Video Twitter account put out a graphic to promote their Christmas games back in December. The graphic showed animated star NFL players from every team all celebrating Christmas together. Very cute stuff. The theorists behind the graphic predicted because Mahomes and Kittle were the only two players wearing game pants in the graphic, the Super Bowl would inevitably be a matchup between the Chiefs and the 49ers. Obviously, we now know that this was mistaken. In addition to the failed prediction, J. Cole and I were able to spot a lot of other inconsistencies in the graphic, namely that Mahomes and Kittle were not the only two players wearing their game pants. But if you are interested in learning more about this, I recommend going back to our Christmas episode and giving it a listen. So, why do I bring this up? Luckily for us, the NFL on Prime Video Twitter account has blessed us with another graphic to make.
Amazing.
I know, it's exciting stuff. So this one was released at the beginning of the season, actually. So this is going to be some post-mortem baking being done by theorists right now. J. Cole, can you describe to the listeners what's going on in this graphic?
So it's a promotional just for kickoff 2024, ready to cook up a great season. You got Josh Allen juggling some buffalo wings. You got Joe Burrow with his bleach blonde hair. Patrick Mahomes with a three-peat cake. You got Brock Purdy throwing some bread rolls. You got Jordan Love with the cheese head on. Jalen Hurts with a Philly cheesesteak. Baker Mayfield with a Tampa Bay Buccaneers cake. Like, it's everyone on mostly quarterbacks except for Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and it's just one player from every team, like, doing a little celebration. They're all gathered next to two tables, one for the AFC, one for the NFC, and there's a big banner over top all of them that says Lombardi School of Cooking. I think it's meant to be done in, like, that famous painting, the School of Athens, with all the philosophers lying around. I think that's, like, the reference they're trying to make. That being said, I don't think it's a little trite.
I was going to say, well, if that's the reference, it was over my head.
Yeah, like, I might just be overanalyzing here, but that was definitely the impression I got when I first looked at this photo. Regardless, I want you, J. Cole, based on this photo, to tell me what the theory is.
They told us right there, Chiefs three-peat, right dead center, Patrick Mahomes with the 3 Super Bowl cake.
Okay, so that's pretty accurate, obviously. I think it was pretty obvious that this was going to have to do with the Chiefs. But let me explain what's piqued the attention of NFL conspiracy theorists. It's two different things. One is what J. Cole pointed out. Mahomes can be seen carrying a cake with 3 Lombardi trophies on top. This is used as evidence to say Mahomes will make it to the Super Bowl and potentially win the game. The other thing is that Jalen Hurts is placed near the NFC conference banner. Like, he's the closest person sitting to it. This is used as evidence to say the Eagles will also appear in the Super Bowl.
As NFC conference champions.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is the general theory. I think this is silly for so many reasons. First of all, Mahomes is holding a 3 Lombardi
Cake.
trophy cake. How many Lombardi trophies does he already have?
3.
Huh. Almost like it could have been a reference to that. The other thing is, you're telling me the evidence for Mahomes, I get it. Fine. Like, that is fair. He's going to get the 3 Lombardi cake. Why is Jalen Hurts' evidence literally he's near the NFC sign? If that was the same logic, then Joe Burrows would likely be the person we should be seeing in the Super Bowl because he's the closest one to the AFC
I don't
side.
know. The Chiefs are the closest one. You got that cake right next to the thing. I don't know. That one actually seems a little bit more valid. Like the food or the team that's closest to the...
I just think it's kind of crazy that it's... Oh, Mahomes has a cake. It's so obvious. And Jalen Hurts is near the NFC side.
Little placard that's on the table.
Exactly. Like, it's just... It's silly, to say the least. But no matter how much me and J. Cole gripe about this, it turns out this prediction is pretty accurate. That being said, the article came out on January 22nd, 4 days before the NFC and AFC championship games. Not particularly impressive considering there were only 4 teams left at the time, but accurate nonetheless. I love this sort of theory, so even though I know there's little substance here, I thought it was necessary to bring up, especially considering the accuracy of the prediction and the way it serves as a great follow-up to the failed Christmas graphic prediction.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take any photo and analyze it 4 years out of context, I'm sure you could find some conspiracy for some NFL theory 4 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, post-mortem baking, you're guaranteed a result.
100%. We've spoken about this on previous episodes, but humans have a knack for finding patterns. It's what has made us the dominant species on Earth, and it's very important to our overall survival as a species as a whole. That being said, it leads us down rabbit holes like this, where we are just so desperate to find patterns where there aren't any. Sometimes he just has a 3 Lombardi trophy cake. Sometimes Jalen Hurts is just near the NFC sign, and that doesn't need to mean anything, even if it makes you comfortable to think that it does.
Yeah.
The last thing I just want to touch on very briefly is the fact that I know a lot of people have been making noise about the Kelsey brothers speaking about the Super Bowl conspiracies on their podcast. Mostly about the AFC Championship game that we touched on last week. I don't have too much to say on the topic, to be honest. I think it's mostly just two brothers joking around. For some context, Jason Kelsey is making it seem as though he is skeptical about the AFC Championship outcome and that maybe it was rigged, and Travis goes on to shut this down pretty quickly. I bring this up because I think it's worthwhile being aware of. It's not substantive in any way. It's certainly not to discuss, but I think we need to bring it up because this is two high-profile people in the NFL world talking about a high-profile conspiracy theory, and I think we would be fools not to at least mention it.
Well,
any additional thoughts?
I mean, Jason, of course, is just being that, like, dipshit older brother who's just, like, playing
For
at
sure.
a joke. And it's not like Travis is gonna come out even jokingly and be like, oh, yeah, it was 100% rigged. Like, he has to, no matter what.
Exactly.
Because obviously, he believes it wasn't rigged.
For sure. One of them is under NFL contract and the other one isn't. And that means one of them has to be PR trained and the other one doesn't.
Well,
so Jason
yeah,
Kelsey gets to
exactly.
throw around shit like this.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? When Travis retires, him and Jason might be, like, shooting this shit on their podcast one day and he's going to go, oh, remember that one? I slipped the ref at 20. Like, he's just joking around at that
Yeah.
point. But right now, while he's signed to the Chiefs, he's
Yeah,
not
he's not
even going to make a
saying-
joke
yeah.
about this.
Yeah, no. All right, welcome, listeners. This end segment has been a long time coming. It was brought to my attention, and I knew I had to give it some proper justice. And now it's time to give that justice. We're going to be talking about how the Immaculate Reception, one of the craziest highlights in American sports history, might have been called a touchdown because the refs were scared for their lives.
Okay, you've got me on the hook here. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so I'm going to be referencing a lot from October 5th, 2016 article from Mike Tanier, just because he compiled all the stuff and all the information and makes it easier for me to give a synopsized version to you guys.
For sure.
Synopsize the word?
I really don't think so, but I'm all about it. We all know what you meant.
It works. All right. So, we will touch on a few things, but one thing we got to focus on. That the referees only called the play a touchdown instead of an illegally deflected pass out of fear for their own safety. Okay, I know this is a crazy take. And officiating crew chief Fred Swearingen saw Steelers fans toppling onto the field of Three Rivers Stadium into the dugout, and he had to call security. When the safety of the officials couldn't be assured, he signaled a potentially life-saving touchdown.
I'm so sorry. You gotta fill me in more here.
So, the Raiders and the Steelers are playing in a divisional playoff game. So this is still the first round of the playoffs. This is December 23rd, 1972. In Pittsburgh, at their stadium at the time, called Three Rivers Stadium, was a dual-use football-baseball stadium. So that's why the officiating crew was in the dugout.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. The play begins with the Steelers having the ball on their own 40-yard line, 4th and 10, 22 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Entering the 1972 season, the Steelers had reached the playoffs just once in their near 40-year history. It had been 9 years since they'd even had a winning season. The Raiders were former AFL champions and enjoyed their best season since the NFL-AFL merger 3 years earlier.
Okay, so two teams with different stakes for sure.
Yeah, so trailing 7-6 with 0 timeouts left on 4th down, Steelers coach Chuck Noll called a play called a 66 circle option. The play broke down quickly because the Raiders' pass rush, which forced Terry Bradshaw to scramble and throw the ball to fullback John Frenchie Fuqua.
What a strong name.
Yeah, Frenchie. It deserves its own nickname.
Yeah, I agree.
On the
Flying
nickname
Frenchman.
episode. Yeah, exactly. Raiders safety Jack Tatum slammed into Fuqua just as the ball arrived. The ball ricocheted backward towards rookie running back Franco Harris, who scooped up the ball and raced it 60 yards into the end zone. That's the only highlight any of us saw for decades, and it's an amazing play, an amazing highlight. Sure. What if I were to tell you that maybe it shouldn't have counted?
Honestly, like, I've only ever seen it on the cameras that were from the 70s that looks like it was filmed on a potato, so I might be inclined to believe you.
So the reason why it might have been illegal, the reason why it was definitely illegal was, according to the NFL rules in 1972, a receiver could not legally catch a pass that had been touched, batted, or deflected by another offensive player after leaving the quarterback's hands.
So it's downed.
So it's downed because technically Fuqua tipped it, and so...
Yeah, it's an incomplete pass.
That's that. After a conference with his officials, crew chief Fred Swearingen walked over to the baseball dugout, which had telephones. With instant replay decades from arrival, Swearingen spoke to someone on the phone. Then he emerged and immediately signaled a touchdown. Security began clearing fans from the field for the extra point. Yeah, so
he literally just called it so that he wouldn't piss off the fans that have already stormed the field?
So what I just told you is what you can visually see what the story is from a visual perspective watching from the outside.
Yes,
okay?
Understood. But what was happening in the bullpen, I guess, is the question. Or the dugout.
So Raiders safety George Atkinson offered some eyewitness testimony of the referee conference, saying, "We wandered over to hear what they were talking about. We thought they were deciding if the play was dead. Instead, they were concerned about security. I heard it with my own ears. They were concerned how much security was there and if they made the wrong call. Other than that, why would they have to call upstairs? For what? There was no instant replay. They were calling security there."
Okay, no, I'm being pulled in now.
Steelers chairman Dan Rooney added another layer to the story, but not until 2012.
So 40 years later, Dan Rooney comes down from his ivory tower to finally tell us what happened during the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah, basically.
What a hero.
Yeah.
He killed Ben Roethlisberger. Covered up his death.
Yeah. So, according to a different newspaper article in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Rooney, whose father, then Steelers owner Art Rooney, who had famously given up on the game and was in the elevator for the entire play...
Okay.
had said that he himself fielded the call from Swearingen. Rooney said that Steelers employee actually made the call on his behalf on behalf of Swearingen. Rooney then called McNally over to where he was standing in the press box. I said, "This is Swearingen," Rooney said of this conversation with McNally. He said, "Swearingen, what's he calling for?" "I don't know."
Whoa, wait, this is some drama.
"I'm standing right there, so I hear what McNally is saying," Rooney said. McNally kept saying, "Call what you saw." There was a pause, and Swearingen said something on the other end. And Rooney said, McNally repeated his instructions. I'm telling you to call what you saw, whatever it was. Then, Rooney continued, he said, get your guys together, you're running it, and call what you saw. He hung up very quickly.
That is like some super mob boss sort of conversations, it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know what you saw. Get it done.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, and that's like a Steelers exec, too, which is like, come on, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy. To be fair, it's very sketchy in the first place of Swearington to have been calling him.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the first breach of conflict.
But, I mean, Raiders fans began floating the referees were scared story, though, just hours after the game. Gary Niver wrote an account of the Raiders plane ride home from Pittsburgh and was published the next day.
So this has like been public information.
Yeah. In Niver's account, Madden, who believed that McNally made the final call, not Swearingen, learns on the plane that McNally only saw the television angle of the replay, not some conclusive angle pulled from another source. I didn't know that, Madden said, but I do know that there was no way they could have reversed that touchdown even if it had been illegal. They, the officials, had to give Pittsburgh the victory to save their own lives. Even Madden believes it.
That's pretty crazy. This is like a very convincing story to me.
Yeah.
I don't see why it feels like there's not much to argue with or contend against if all the facts that are laid out in this article are true.
I mean, this is all urban legend. Like none of this is proven.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
The refs probably didn't call the Immaculate Reception because they were scared, but like it is very, very likely.
No matter what, it is a very compelling story and something I think is worth being told, especially considering every football fan has seen that highlight God knows how many times. So it's pretty cool to, take back the curtains and see what was really going on behind there.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. That's
the Immaculate
the story
Reception
of
was a
the
lie.
Immaculate Reception being faked for the safety of a referee.
The Immaculate Incomplete Pass.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
You can find us on Twitter at FB Conspiracies, where we will post all the graphics and links we spoke about during this episode.
You can also reach us by email using fbconspiracies@gmail.com.
A special thanks to Blaze for the music.
If you enjoyed, consider leaving a review.
Join us next week for more football conspiracies. All right, I forgot to mention this during the episode, but my boy Jay Cutup pulled out the greatest stat of all time. In the century, every single time the Super Bowl has been played in between the two teams, i.e., one team traveling east, one team traveling west. The team traveling west has won the Super Bowl.
Every single time?
In this since 2002, it has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th time it's happened, and every single time the team traveling west has won.
So that puts the Eagles in the win.
Eagles are traveling west, Chiefs are traveling east.
All right. Eagles go west, Eagles fly.
Okay, but you say that. I have another one. The Philadelphia Eagles, all-time regular season and playoff record is 6-6-6 wins, 6-6-5 losses.
Okay.
And they're playing the Chiefs.
So if they lose one more time, they have a perfect record and we have to banish them as a team.
Well, I feel like it's like the Chiefs get their win for their devil's sacrifice. The Eagles are now like the devil's team because like they are.
For sure.
And like the end of days comes and the rapture and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot that that's what happens when the Eagles go 6-6-6-6-6.
Yeah,
No,
so
true.
February 9th.
Rapture. And the Matthew McConaughey commercial coming out.
Yeah, well, that'll be... Well, at least we'll get the Matthew McConaughey commercial before we get Rapture.
Thank God. I live for the ads.